So earlier you described that a lot of the so-called evidence used to support the use of psych meds, especially antidepressants, are these short-term clinical trials where they're showing 8 to 12 weeks there's a reduction in distress due to numbing, but that doesn't really make sense if these drugs are going to be used by people for years on end. And so something I want to clarify for our listeners, because not everybody knows this, I have therapists in my audience, but also people from all walks of life, is that when it comes to a diagnosis of major depression, or you only have to have clinically significant symptoms for 2 weeks to meet the criteria for major depressive disorder single episode. Whether that single episode is mild, moderate, or severe, or you may have recurring episodes or they may last longer. If they're 2 years without more than 2 months of relief, then that's persistent depressive disorder. And sometimes that can get labeled as treatment resistant. But that was something that I noticed in one of these trainings that I went to years ago, because as a therapist, you're encouraged to go to trainings put on by psychiatrists. And I remember looking at the outcomes of one of these studies and saying, well, there was a reduction in distress after X amount of time, but you're looking at major depressive disorder. That means that this might have been a time limited condition in the first place. So why would people stay on it? Another thing I think we need to be talking about more in the culture in general is that a lot of people I see in my therapy practice, especially like people in their 20s, have been on meds for depression and anxiety for years, maybe since they started adolescence, and nobody ever told them. No therapist, no psychiatrist, or primary care physician ever told them this diagnosis, whether it's major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, which by the way is a 6 month, you have to have symptoms for 6 months to qualify for that criteria, that this isn't a life sentence. It's not like saying you have diabetes, right? It's not like saying there's this thing that's permanent about you. It's that you can have these symptoms for a period of your life, and it could be in relation to all kinds of things. And so I think you and I, in our own ways, are both asking the question, why would you put people on drugs that are really hard to get off of, or put them on drugs without any plan to get off of them, for something that is actually quite likely to be time limited?